Hello, everyone, and welcome to the March meeting of the NGH. We are so happy to welcome Jodie Solberg. She's going to be presenting a topic that will be of interest to a lot of the members. And what is this? I think it's super important for all of us, increasing your visibility to market your practice. Jodie became clinically trained as a hypnotherapist in 2001, opened her virtual private practice, Psyched Success. What a cool name. In 2019, and then she grew her client base using such avenues as podcasts, YouTube, magazines, and blogs, and also became an international speaker and 6-time best-selling author. Jodie will share her tips on how to increase visibility in your own hypnosis practice through writing and speaking. Jodie.
Thanks so much, Jim, for the introduction. I am excited to be here today talking about this topic because in our digital world, there's so many opportunities to speak and to write and to be able to market ourselves. And so I'm going to share some slides here with everybody. Let's see if I can do that or not, if it will let me. We'll see. Sometimes it does.
It's good.
There we go. Yes. And I'll see if I get it bigger for you too. So let's see. There we go. So so we're going to talk about increasing your visibility. Because like I said, online, there's so many opportunities now and back in person again, right? We're getting a lot more opportunities for things like conferences and summits and networking to be online and in person now again, which is wonderful. And we're all grateful for that. And so that is what my topic is going to be. Like Jim said, I am now a mental wellness and success coach. I actually practiced therapeutically for many years and had my coaching business separate. And so, like he had mentioned, in 2019, I decided to start my virtual private practice. So now I do work mostly online, but I decided to put those two worlds together. I was working with a lot of female entrepreneurs in my coaching and consulting business, where I would help people who were starting businesses and growing their businesses. And I still do that. I actually team up with a lot of business coaches, and I have a lot of really great partnerships in doing that and helping people in that way. But I had also become a hypnotherapist in grad school for psychology way back in 2001. And it was something that I was always a focus for me. It was always something that I knew I could utilize to help people. And I wanted to be able to help those people that I was coaching as well, because we all have those challenges in our lives personally that affect us professionally. And so that's really where that came about with Psyched Up Success. And how the speaking and the writing came about was in 2020. So 2019 going into 2020, I started creating things like a digital course and a group program for hypnotherapy, as well as my individual client work. Well, what happened was I was online more. So I was on social media, I was blogging, I was doing a little bit of speaking here and there, guest coaching a lot, things like that. So going in and guest speaking for people and starting some of those partnerships that I had just mentioned. And I got seen online by someone I'd never met. And that person was running a global, at the time, basically speaking tour, right? A big global speaking tour. Now, it was going to be in person, and then everything shut down in 2020. So it did end up moving online, but she had invited me, like my messages, things that I was sharing, and invited me to join that speaking tour. So that's how the speaking got started. Now, from that speaking tour, I was then invited to be a part of my first book. So you will see in the corner, if you can see me there, I have some of the books up on the desk behind me. Since that time, so that was late 2020, I had been on that speaking tour for a little while. Since that time, I have now actually been a co-author in 6 different Amazon best-selling anthologies. So I collaborated, including one coaching workbook, which was really great. I did a whole chapter in there about emotional intelligence. And there's been things that I've spoken about often So that's something that we're going to talk about here in a moment, is picking those topics that are in your wheelhouse. So what are those things, right? We all have a niche. We all have different people that we help. So what are those things for you? And I speak a lot about emotional intelligence. I speak a lot about burnout. I speak often about self-care and self-talk and self-compassion and limiting beliefs. And, there's just certain things that I talk about quite often. And I do speak and write a lot for people in business, because that was a focus for me and in the work that I do. And so 6 different anthologies. From one, I got invited to another. And people would see my work, and then they'd contact me and ask me to be a part of their projects. And I've also now put out 2 Amazon best-selling journals of my own as well. So I have an Everything Happens for a Lesson journal, and I just recently released in the last few weeks an Embracing Your Strengths journal. And so that was how I got started in writing and speaking. And to me, they go together because one opportunity has led to the next. So I've gotten a lot of interest and a lot of exposure from doing these things. And so I wanted to share with you all what that looked like for me and how you do that for yourself. And so I have just a few bullet points up here to talk about how do you get started really in getting your name out there and getting these opportunities to come your way. And the first one is really just identifying your target audience, knowing exactly who you're speaking to so that you know where you want to speak or what you want to write about. So I mentioned some of the topics that I like to write about. I have in some books that are for, co-ed. Everyone, of course, can benefit from all of them, but some of them are targeted specifically towards women, and that's because that has been a big audience for me. And it's something I have a lot of experience in. Now, I do have experience with kids and teens and women and men. I worked with kids and teens and families at the beginning of my career, and I continue to work with all sorts of people. But at the same time, when you're identifying a target audience, it doesn't have to encompass everyone you've ever worked with or everyone you work with now. It's just who you're speaking to. So sometimes I'm speaking to an audience that's all women, and so I target my message that way. And sometimes I'm speaking to a broader audience, maybe all different kinds of people in business, for example, for what I do. And so I target my message towards that. So before you start writing or before you start speaking, it is, just important to know what that audience is, right? So you want to identify, who do you want to reach? What are their interests? What are their, pain points? What are their challenges? What are the things that they're going through, so that you can really tailor your stories and your message to them, so that you can really resonate with whoever that audience is. So being really clear about that, you probably are. Right, with your practice and what you do, you probably know who you're speaking to. So if you work with people who are dealing with addiction, for example, right, you're going to speak to that audience. So the second thing is to really develop and define what your message is. So message needs to be really clear and direct and really focused on solving their problem. So whoever you're trying to speak to, solving whatever it is that they're going through, right? Where are they now? And then where do they want to go? And so from your own experience and your experience through, your hypnosis practice, your experience even personally, you're going to have a unique take on solving that problem. So your insights, your perspectives, and what you can offer. And so for each topic, and I don't recommend having too many, at first, maybe just a few different topics that you can speak on and fit that to the audience that you're talking to. But you can expand to, a handful of different topics. And then I take those and rotate them, again, just depending on where I'm speaking and who the audience is, but you can have some key takeaways. If I'm speaking to all women, like I said, I would tweak that message a little bit. If I'm speaking to business owners, I might tweak that message a little bit. If I'm speaking to people who are healing from trauma, because I've worked with people who are dealing with, trauma and things like abuse and addiction for my whole career. So if I'm just speaking specifically to that, then I could tweak that message a little bit. It's going to be slightly different. And you want to also know what the venue is, right? So what medium are you speaking on? Are you writing on? Is it a book? Is it a blog? There's so many different options for speaking and writing. So for example, I'm going to take my message and tailor it a little differently if I'm doing either my own blog post or I'm guest blogging for someone, or if I'm speaking. Sometimes I'll be asked to speak on a summit or a conference, and it'll be 30 minutes, or they'll say, okay, it's 45 minutes or an hour or 20 minutes. So depending on the length of the writing or the speaking, I can tailor that message. I can condense it down, or I can expand it out, and I might have some more takeaways or some more points of things that I want to get across to the audience, depending on that. You also want to develop your strategy. Where do you want? Do you want to write? Do you want to speak? Do you want to do both? What is that going to look like for you? So really having a strategy of where am I going to show up is really important. For me, like I said, I never thought that being an author was going to be a thing. I didn't know that that was going to be an avenue for me to reach more people until I was invited to do that. And I thought a new thought. Speaking was something that if you had said I would be doing that 20 years ago, I would have laughed at you, and then I probably would have hid in another room. I would have ran away because it was not something that was on my radar. So I completely understand if it's a little uncomfortable to be so visible, but you can start really small. And I'm going to talk about that more, about expanding your comfort zone with that, because I certainly had to. But just develop your strategy of what are you most comfortable with to start. Do you want to start your own blog? Do you want to start a Facebook group, or are you comfortable on Instagram, or would you like to be on a podcast? So you can use your voice, right? You can use your video, so your voice and your face, or you can just use your words and you can just speak. So there are a lot of options there. You have to figure out what your strategy is on how you want to do that and look for those opportunities. So if you're wanting to speak, are you wanting to do virtually or in person? You can put on your own workshops, or you can do webinars or conferences. There's some people here in the group, as well as I, that have meetups, right? Meetup groups. So you can start that, and you can reach a wider audience that way. For me, the goal is to reach more people, right? To get those messages to more people. So the things that I'm sharing, if I can take more tools and more resources and more knowledge and share that with a wider audience, there's going to be more opportunity for them to go to my website to see what I do, to learn more about what is hypnosis and is it right for me, all of those things. So you want to know what avenues you want to use, and then also what your goal is when you're trying to develop that strategy. And then we want to create that valuable content. So based on what that target audience was, and however you're wanting to share that message, you want to start creating that. The thing that I love is that you can repurpose. So if I'm doing a video, let's say on social media, so I'm doing a Facebook video, guess what? I can take that topic that I'm speaking on, and I can turn it into a blog post. I could turn it into a book chapter. I could turn it into a whole book. So there's a lot of things that you can do. One of the things that I do for writing right now is I write for a women's leadership magazine out of the UK on a weekly basis. And that is really short. So it's like 250 to 300 words. So I can take that same training that I would do in a group, for example. So for a mastermind that I coach in, or for my Facebook group that's all about personal and professional growth, or something that I'm speaking on, and I can write a longer blog post about it, or I could write, a 2,000 word chapter about it, or I could write 200 words and make it just a little brief synopsis and put it in there. But we're getting that valuable content to go in multiple places. So that's definitely something that's so helpful, is you don't have to reinvent the wheel. And especially when you just have a handful of topics that you're really an expert in. And like I said, start with one kind of signature talk, as they call it, or one signature topic. And then you can expand into a few, and then maybe a handful eventually of topics, but stick to whatever your expertise is. Start with your strength and just share that value from your knowledge and your experience. That's all you have to do with that. And then, so leveraging opportunities. So I mentioned that one opportunity for me has led to the next, has led to the next. Whenever you see someone who was on a podcast, for example, or you see an article that you're like, oh, I could contribute something like that. Or, oh, you listen to something and you say, hey, that would fit with what I have to say to an audience. I could be a part of that. Or you see a conference and you think, okay, they hold this conference every so often. I can apply next time to be a speaker. And you can take those opportunities and run with them. Apply to speak, apply to write, give your 2 cents out there. There are a lot of opportunities actually for media. So for example, there is a website called Help a Reporter Out. It's HARO, and you can actually get emails. You can sign up for even daily emails where reporters are looking for experts on topics and they need someone to interview. And I've done that and gotten in different publications because I found the contact information on that Help a Reporter Out website, and it happened to fit with what I did and my expertise. And I wrote in and said, hey, I can answer this question. I can help you with this. I would be happy to be interviewed. And you can get your name out there. Well, we want to leverage those opportunities, and you can do that in a couple different ways. One is that every time I speak or write, I make sure that my contact information is there. It's always there. So that's the beauty of that. If I get featured in a newspaper or magazine or on a blog or on someone's podcast, my information, my website, and my contact info is published to everyone. And so that's just more exposure, right? And then what happened to me might happen to you, which is someone else will see it and say, hey, that was a really great topic. I would like to invite this person to be in my publication or on my podcast, or to guest coach in my group, or whatever it is, or to be an expert and come speak on my YouTube channel. So it's nice because you can really leverage those opportunities through their audience, but you can also do it through your audience. So if you have an email list, you have social media, you have past clients that you can, send an email blast out and say, hey, I'm going to be speaking at this, or hey, here's this publication that I'm in, check this out. So you're actually leveraging that in a couple ways, because you're taking advantage of the opportunity to get into someone else's audience, but then you're also giving yourself something to market to your own audience. And then in addition to my contact information, I always make sure that there's a call to action of some kind. And what a call to action would be is a free 30-minute introductory call, or a strategy session, or here's a download that you can, put a link to. And then you, in doing that, are either contacting that person by email. Let's say you capture their email for them to download that free tool from you, or you get their information when you book a free call with them. Whatever that looks like for you, make sure that there's some way that you can then get the business, right? So you want to put, yes, your contact information, but you also want to have something you're offering to that audience so that you can make sure that anyone who's interested, you get their information so that then you can contact them, you can layer, they can come into your group, they can come onto your email list. So there's a lot of opportunities there to really market yourself in a lot of different ways. And I just found this nice quote. So I wanted to share that, Steve Jobs said you have to master the topic, master the message, master the delivery. And so that's what this is about. Pick your topics, figure out what your message is with your unique voice based on your experience personally and professionally, and then figure out how you're going to deliver that. And so making it happen just takes a few things. It takes getting prepared. So I definitely recommend practicing your delivery ahead of time, right? Set yourself up for success. What that means is that if you're going to do video, let's say you're going to do virtual and be on video like I do, right? And you're going to be on a podcast. Sometimes podcasts aren't just audio. You want to make sure you have good audio though for the podcast. But a lot of times when I am a guest on a podcast, they record video too, because maybe it goes on YouTube as well as on all of the podcast sites. So it might be a little bit of both, right? So make sure your lighting is good. Make sure your audio is good. Make sure you know what you're going to say, or you have an outline, or you have slides, or you have something to prepare. Make sure to practice what that's going to look like and where you're going to look and all of those things. And then also be prepared, like I had mentioned, in promoting the media to your audience. Make sure you're putting it on your social media that you're going to be doing this. Make sure you're putting it out there to your email list. For example, get some people on there and commenting if it's a live thing, so that way you have some engagement going. So you can be prepared that way. Also, remember that nobody came out of the womb perfect at this. Okay. So like I said, I certainly did not. I was good one-on-one, and then I was teaching groups. Okay? I was running groups for parenting. I was running groups for kids and for teens. I was doing networking. And so I would just speak for a little bit and sit back down. And that's how I started, just gradually expanding my comfort zone with speaking. And then I started writing just a little bit. So a blog, social media posts, that's writing. Absolutely. You're putting that content out there. I was doing little things. And then when I was approached to do my first book chapter, I got help with that. And I felt like, okay, I've been writing a little bit, I've been sharing some content. I feel like I could do that. I feel like I could make that happen. And that's also how I discern whether or not I'm going to do a project or I'm going to say yes to an opportunity is, number one, does it sound fun? Because I decided that I didn't want to do things that weren't fun. And does it resonate with me? Can I, when I hear the topic, when I hear the name of the podcast or the topic of the book, or, what is this topic? What is it that they are wanting me to do? If I can think right away of, yes, I could talk about this, I say yes. Even if it's a new challenge, even if it's something I haven't done, if I feel like I can come at it from a place of, yes, I have expertise in that. Yes, I feel confident in sharing a message about that. And it sounds, even if it's scary, it also sounds enjoyable. I will absolutely do that. And I have met some amazing people and networked like crazy through doing this, and had so many opportunities come my way because I was willing to expand that comfort zone and really focus on the growth and not worry if it wasn't perfect, because we all know there's no such thing. So it's okay. If there's something that doesn't go exactly right, it's all right, right? You just roll with it and keep going. Right? And then you learn from it and you tweak it next time, and it's okay. And then definitely get guidance and support with all of this. If there's questions that you have, go to somebody who's done it before. Okay? Absolutely. Feel free to reach out and get that support. And don't forget to really ask for what you need. and what you want to grow in. So focus on your strengths, but other people have other strengths for a reason. So if there's something that's not your strength, if you always wanted to be an author, but editing isn't your strength, you edit your own things. You get an editor, right? You write, somebody else can help. There's ghostwriters, there's all sorts of people where you can give them all the information and they can write. There's virtual assistants that can help take all of your ideas and put it into those blog posts. There's so many opportunities to get support and help and to really round each other out with our strengths. And then make sure that you are leveraging other people's audiences. So make sure that you are giving those calls to action. Make sure that you are sharing that out and pointing people towards, hey, go see this, go watch this, come see me do this. Because in the world of online now, the more people you have go and watch something, the more it gets shown to other people. And you want to make sure that you take those opportunities and you run with it. So that's really everything that I have to share with you all about speaking and writing and how that can help you to get more exposure and to really market in your practice. But this is my contact information. So if you have any questions, or I'm somebody that you would like to ask questions of, or to be able to cheer you on, or to give you some recommendations, I would be happy to do that. So please feel free to reach out to me on social media or to send me an email, and we can chat some more about this, because it is a topic that I'm really passionate about, because it has been so influential for me in growing my business and being able to grow personally and professionally through getting more comfortable and becoming that expert in this area of being able to write, being able to speak, and being confident in that. It's been a huge point of growth for me. And so I hope that it can be for you as well. So thank you all so much.
Thank you so much, Jodie. I'm going to unpin you so that we can see everyone at the end of this recording. We really appreciate all of your great information, and your presentation, of course, was like perfect.
Thank you.
So I'm going to stop the recording. This will be on YouTube, and the link will be in our newsletter. So let me do that.